Please listen carefully.
Well, hello, universe, and welcome to the Optimist Daily Update. I'm Kristy Jansen.
And I'm Amelia Buckley.
And we're part of the team behind the Optimist Daily, making solutions the news. We bring you reader-funded solutions news every day in order to change the tenor of news media, social media, and the direction of your day to help you get focused on solutions.
7 days a week, we publish positive news stories written by award-winning journalists and delivered online to your inbox and through our social channels. And also, we are sharing these solutions in a commute-worthy, walk-worthy, home office-worthy, TGIF-worthy podcast.
Woo!
Today is Friday, the 24th of September, 2021. Happy Friday, Kristy.
Happy Friday, Amelia. So are you planning to do anything fun this weekend? Are you going to do one of your hikes or bike rides?
I'm not biking this weekend, but it is one of my friend's birthdays here on Friday. And so we are going to go backpacking this weekend to celebrate her. So I'll have to figure out how to take cake backpacking. That's my challenge for today.
Or can you bring something to make cake over the campfire?
Well, we're not actually allowed to have campfires right now because Montana's pretty wildfire conscious at the moment. So there's no fires, unfortunately. But they do make like those pre-made backpack meals that are the just add boiling water type. And I think they have dessert ones.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll look into getting one.
Can you do like a breakfast or a birthday custard?
Oh, yeah. A birthday flan.
A birthday flan.
I don't know if they make dehydrated backpacking flan, but I will go to REI and ask.
I like it. I have to say, Amelia, I love imagining you trekking through the mountains of Montana and enjoying the great outdoors and the big sky country. And I will probably get on maybe a couple of mini trails here with my dog. And maybe I'll do a little bit of outside because outside is so beneficial for us, right? Weren't we writing about that yesterday?
We write about that all the time. It is very good for you. Yesterday it was because it helps you sleep.
Yes. So anyway, what are we going to do for our challenge this weekend?
Oh, we do have to pick a challenge. So looking at what we've talked about on the pod this week, we had a lot of science-y stories, a lot of health stories. And I think the two of us were thinking that we would do a challenge around museums.
I like that.
And part of this is that we have a story about fossils on the Daily today that we thought was interesting. So we wanted to like dive deeper into the science world and maybe visit. I might go to an in-person museum because there's a cool one in town with fossils that I have not visited yet.
Weren't you telling me that it has like the biggest collection of T-Rex fossils?
Yeah, so Montana has one of the highest concentrations of T-Rex fossils in the world is in the state of Montana. So there's kind of like a T-Rex museum in town here that has an actual T-Rex fossil on display. It's part of the Montana State University. It's their campus museum and they have it. So I might go check that out. But if I don't have time to do that with the backpacking, I will at least do a virtual museum visit.
I can commit to a virtual museum trip. Or maybe I'll go to the aquatic museum that has outside areas here in Santa Barbara.
Have you ever been, I don't know if it's open right now, but at UC Santa Barbara, have you been to the touch tanks on campus?
I have, and those are really kind of neat.
Those are fun.
Yes. So there's lots of great museum educational opportunities. But I think, didn't we write an article about virtual museums that we could visit?
We did, yeah. There was an article about 5 virtual climate exhibitions that you could visit.
Okay. Well,
so I will link that in the show notes, and then people can check them out because those.
I love that. Cool. And that's perfect because actually our stories, yes, we've done a lot of talk about health and science, but we've also talked about climate health and how climate health and medicine are connected. We talked about Emory University adding that to their program. And then I guess I'll jump in with my headline for the day.
Yeah, that one ties in. What's your headline about today?
That's what I wanted to spotlight on the pod. We have a thought leader series article about practicing planetary health. And it was written by Dr. Bhargavi Chakuri, who's a family medicine practitioner. And she wrote this really wonderful article on Climate for Health website that I found. And I thought it was so pertinent to some of the things we talk about in the Optimist Daily. So we reached out to them to see if we could repost it here and share it with our readers. The other reason I liked this article is it does touch on the fact that the healthcare industry itself has a really large carbon footprint. And this is something that I've seen some of our audience concern about, and they've written to us about solutions around getting rid of plastic waste and other kinds of waste from the medical industry, which is something that doesn't make it into the headlines a lot. But that's what Dr. Chikuri is part of what she's writing about. And it's a personal story about her personal journey towards climate advocacy, which started with a 3-week plastic-free challenge that happened to coincide with the start of her family medicine residency training, which was in 2018. And what she experienced was that she was, on the one hand, trying to reduce her personal carbon footprint, while she was also going in to learn about the core tenets of preventative medicine. And those two things together opened her eyes to just how climate change is really a public health emergency. She talks about the real life health impacts of climate change that she started seeing everywhere once her eyes were opened in the exam room. Heat stress, air pollution, complexities of refugee and migrant health, all of those things were really evident to her in her practice, but she was not getting that kind of training, or with that, the sort of the climate forward training in her family medicine practice. At the same time, she was learning about how the healthcare industry's carbon footprint is estimated to be about 10% of global greenhouse emissions are estimated to come from healthcare. So she was
Wow,
like,
that's a lot. That would be more than I would expect.
yeah,
I think it's because it's so life-saving that we never really think about. It's like healthcare at any cost because you're saving lives.
Totally.
But there is this other side to it as well.
There is another side to it. And so how do you balance that? And that's a really interesting conversation, which I think is only just now starting to be brought out in medical schools. And as we think about putting a climate focus on everything, because we live in the environment we live in. And so it affects everything. And health is one of those big things that really is affected. And yes, it's easy to look at the really short term and think about how can we save this person, or how can we help right now and relieve this current symptom. But you have to look at the bigger picture as well and keep that balance in mind. And I know that like when the coronavirus pandemic started and the lockdown started, like grocery stores wouldn't let us bring our own bags anymore for a while. We had to take new bags every time, which was because at that point we didn't know how COVID was transmitted.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt terrible because I was every week getting, 5 new plastic bags for my groceries, or however many were being delivered. Anyway, Dr. Chikuri has some great suggestions about how do we make a difference. And her point is that how do you get doctors to practice better planetary health, teach better advocacy, and get young doctors involved and thinking with these kinds of a climate perspective from the beginning. And so she has now started bringing that into her practice. She leans into sharing narratives and stories about her patients and focuses on the individual experiences of people's lives. And that has really helped her get active. And she's become a very powerful advocate, I think, for teaching climate science and health policy and how they are interactive.
It reminds me of that story we talked about a couple weeks ago about how partnering lawyers with medical clinics, because it's addressing the root issue of people's health concerns, poverty, as well as the manifestation of them.
Being disenfranchised has a really negative effect on your health.
Yeah, it's the same idea of not just treating the symptoms, but treating the root issue, which is so important.
So I mean, this is a very long article. It's much longer than our normal daily stories. So it's one that I recommend. If you have any time today, go on to the optimistdaily.com and look for this article about practicing planetary health in the medical field, and read about it. And also you get to see our new website, which
you can see our new website. What else you can find on our new website is this story that I wanted to highlight today that is also in the realm of healthcare. And the headline reads, "Researchers identify new highly effective ovarian cancer treatment." And this one was really interesting to me because I know that ovarian cancer is a cancer that often targets younger people, and it has a pretty high mortality rate, unfortunately, because it can be difficult to detect. But fortunately, researchers from the Institute of Cancer Research in London and the Royal Marsden NHS Foundation Trust have put out research that found a treatment option that is comprised of a revolutionary drug combination that works together to obstruct the signals that cancer cells need to grow. This is an especially effective treatment option for individuals with a specific type of ovarian cancer, and it's the type that doesn't normally respond to chemotherapy or hormone therapy. So it's kind of another avenue for treatment for people who previously didn't have anywhere else to turn. And using this drug combination, they saw decreases in tumor size or shrinkage in tumor in 46% of the patients that they were evaluating. So they had 24 patients that they were testing this on. And they saw specific benefits in patients with a certain mutation, which indicates that the tumor profiles can help identify which patients are more likely to benefit from this new treatment. So they can identify who's going to reap the most benefits from it.
And I think this is a great article, Amelia. Partly what it's focusing on is new ways of targeted medicine and how cancers are not just one thing. You know, our understanding has just become so much richer in the last couple decades. And like different types of, yes, you have ovarian cancer, but there's so much nuance in which particular situation is going on. And so a particular genetic variation will be treated well with this kind of a treatment versus knowing what will be treated better by a more conventional chemotherapy. And having the different a menu of options out there and available, it just makes it more likely that people can treat this illness and not have it be the terrifying diagnosis that it has been. I mean,
and I think that's kind of a public awareness that we established during the pandemic, is that people are really realizing that disease, it can all be one disease, but the way that it affects different populations varies really greatly, because not everybody has the same body, not everyone has the same genetics or environmental factors. And those really affect how a disease impacts your body. You know, you can say it's ovarian cancer, but that can mean two completely different things in different people.
It can mean 12 different things in different people. And it's such a complex exchange and interaction. And then you've got your genetics, and you've got your microbiome, and how does that affect it? You know,
your brain health,
your
all connected.
What is your emotional and mental health can affect your physical health too. I mean, everything is interconnected and specific. And as we have more understanding, you're going to see better outcomes. And so I thought this was a great article. And all of these medical advances that we like to write about on the Optimist Daily are showing, they're the points of light. They're the spears of progress as they evolve. And this is clearly, it's a small study, and it's going into phase 2 trials right now. It's not publicly available yet, but it's exciting.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll see it expanded soon with the phase 2 trials starting. All right, Kristy, well, what else do we have on the Optimist Daily today on this wonderful Friday?
As you mentioned on the first part of the pod, there's a fossil discovered by a team of junior naturalists, and I think that comes out of New Zealand, and they've identified this fossil as a new species that has never before been documented in modern science. And I love that when you have young people finding something which opens the eyes of the broader scientific community.
That was cool because they actually discovered it in 2006, but the research was just published, and some of those kids who were on the team have gone on to pursue careers in conservation.
Exactly, and that's why it's
warm and fuzzy.
Definitely. And it goes to show you how good science education, it can really help to, bring brilliant minds into the world. And so UK has taken action to ban shark fin trade, another conservation story. St. Andrews University is embracing pollinator-friendly rewilding on campus. And some major U.S. companies are committed to hiring and training Afghan refugees, giving a boost to their workforce while also a place and jobs to folks who are displaced by the Afghanistan crisis. What else is on today's headlines?
We've got have the urge to urinate all the time. Here's what to do about it.
Oh, okay.
5 factors that influence our dreams. OSHA moves to increase extreme heat protection for workers, referencing that study that we talked about earlier this week on the pod. And this sleek pair of sunglasses is made from carbon sucked from the air, so carbon capture turning into some sweet shades. That and more on theoptimistdaily.com. Thank you all for listening to the Optimist Daily Update today. We promise to continue to share positive, solution-based stories with ideas on how you can participate in this changing world and ensure it is changed for the good. We promise to cover the current events with accuracy, legitimate sources, and offer you the information needed most to chart new paths for all of us.
And the way we can do this is by our readers, who are also our emissaries that help support us, because we are a reader-funded publication. We don't do any advertising or product placement or anything like that. We're self-supported. And so we are inviting you to become a supporter to help us do our work and bring our Optimist Daily to everybody. So if you have the means, consider becoming an emissary on theoptimistdaily.com. And for $5, $15, even $50 a month, you can get involved and help support our work and help us bring the Optimist Daily to you every day and be a part of the solution-changing consciousness that addresses our world's biggest challenges with a problem-solving mindset. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and have a great weekend. Go visit a virtual museum or a real one, and then write to us about your weekend challenge. And we'll be back on Monday with more.